When you have been delivered and your mind has been decluttered, do not revisit or bring old wounds, old hurts, old problems back into your clean house. And that's what Satan will do. He will try to bring the stuff back to you, ladies. You have a weapon to keep Satan out of here. You have a weapon, and that weapon is prayer. A young attorney was just beginning his new law practice. And while he was moving around his new office, he looked out and he saw what he thought was a new customer coming to enlist his service, coming toward the door. And he wanted to make a good impression on that person. So he grabbed up his telephone as he entered the doorway, and he said, no, I cannot take your case. I am booked up. I just have too many people, but I cannot take your case. But wait a minute. Maybe I can fit you in. Maybe I can fit you in, but I cannot take your case under $5,000. And that is my final price. Under five, I cannot take it. $5,000. That is my price. And so he put his phone down and he looked up and he saw the young man standing in front of his desk. He said, "Now, what can I do for you, my friend?" And the man said, "Well, you know what? Oh, nothing. You know, I just came by to hook up that telephone that you're on." So, the lesson here is that you cannot sow deception, dishonesty, trickery, and fraud and make people have confidence in you. You know, I heard a little story, and I'm sure that you have heard this story too. But anyway, there was this very successful and wealthy building contractor. He was a developer of many expensive and state-of-the-art homes for the rich and for the famous. Now, over the years, he had acquired a very large and magnificent fortune. He had many employees, but there was one who had been with him for many years, and this one was his trusted assistant and his best friend. Now, even though the boss paid this assistant very well, over the years, the assistant, seeing his boss become so wealthy, he became envious, he became jealous, and he became disgruntled. He did his job, but he was so resentful in doing it. Now, because the boss was such a positive person, he did not observe and chose not to see the negative attitude coming from his assistant. Now, one day, the boss decided that he wanted to build a very special house. So he went to his favorite employee, his assistant, and he told him that since he had been with him for so long, he wanted him to be over the building project of this very special house, because he knew everything there was to know about building. And the boss said, I want this house to be greater than any other house that we have built. And he told him that there was an unlimited budget and that money was not an object, meaning that whatever it took to build this house, there was no shortage of money. And he also told the assistant, since you know everything there is to know about building, you do not need me to supervise your budget and how you are building this house. But let me know when you have completed the project. So the assistant selected his crew and they set out to work. But because of his resentment toward the boss and because of his jealousy, he began to play a few tricks. He decided to draw large sums of money, but cut corners by ordering and purchasing cheap, low-grade, and substandard materials, keeping the remainder of the money for himself. He put in an inferior electrical system. He used rusty galvanized pipes for the plumbing rather than shiny new copper. Inexpensive bathroom fixtures were ordered. The kitchen appliances were second-rate and not top of the line. The carpeting was from rejected rolls, and the furnishings were cheap and of poor quality. The rooms and the outside of the house were painted in weird, colored, discounted paint. Finally, the house was completed, and the assistant had to show the finished product to the boss. Now, with this smug feeling of arrogance and a satisfaction that he had outsmarted his boss, he presented the boss the house, and he gave him the keys. They walked through the house, the boss observing everything and smiling kindly. When they got to the outside, the boss joyously and graciously said, "Oh, thank you so much for building this house for me. But I have a wonderful surprise for you. Since you have been such a wonderful, loyal, trusting, and honest employee for many years, I wanted to do something extra special for you to show my appreciation other than just giving you a weekly check. I have a special gift for you." And he handed him back the keys and said, "This is your gift from me. This is your house. This is your new home." The assistant had built his own home. And I must tell you today, we are building our future home. You've heard about this very wealthy lady who lived a life of complete luxury down on earth. She died. She stood at heaven's gate waiting to be ushered in and shown her heavenly home. It was a small, very basic mansion located in the midst of other tiny, simple, and plain homes. And she was offended. She was upset. She objected. She was angry. "This can't be my home," she said. "Oh, no, 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 no." She wanted to know why her home was so plain and drab when she had lived in a palace on earth in the midst of other luxurious, comfortable, and spacious homes. She said, "Must I now dwell eternally in this small house?" "Well," she was told by the conductor, "this is the house that has been prepared for you." And she looked across the street and she said, "Well, whose house is that over there?" And he said, "Who's that one over there?" That belongs to your gardener. What? My gardener, she said. How is it that my gardener has a mansion so much bigger and better than mine? He worked for me. And the reply was, we built this house out of the materials that you sent to us while you were on this earth. Now, we could have built a palace for you just like the one over there had you sent us the same type of materials with which to build it, like your gardener did. But the mansions up here are prepared from the materials that are set up by each person. We do not choose the materials. You choose the materials by your earthly faithfulness and contributions. Can you imagine that? Now, I read a little story recently about a man who had opened up a small clothing store. His son worked for him. His son was in training to eventually carry on the business. And one day a lady came back with the dress to return it that she had purchased. The son looked at the dress and he knew that the lady had damaged the dress. And he felt like she did not deserve a refund. And the father directed his son to give the woman a full refund. So Stanley, the son, argued and argued and argued with his dad. But Dad, it's not the store's fault. And the manufacturer would never refund the price of that dress back to us. So it will be our loss. But Stanley's father stood firm. He said, son, give her back the money. She did not buy the dress from the manufacturer. She bought the dress from us. He said, it costs about $200 to recruit a new customer. Why should we lose her over a $175 dress? So he ordered his son Stanley to issue the woman a full refund. And then he said, and do it with a smile. Now, that act of kindness was sound advice from the man who started Neiman Marcus. Because in years to come, the same woman would spend much more money at the same store because of that particular kindness. It costs nothing to be nice and kind because kindness is like a boomerang. It always comes back with benefits. Now, a really sincere act of kindness is helping someone who can never return the favor. Several years ago, Bishop Blake and I went out to dinner. And not only did we enjoy being with each other, we enjoyed the food. So after we finished, the waiter bought the bill, and we sat there smiling and smiling. He does smile, you know. Bishop reached for his wallet. He asked me, honey, do you have any money with you? I left my wallet at home. I said, no. Since I was with you, I didn't bring any money. I didn't bring anything with me. Embarrassed, we explained it to the waiter and asked if we could go home and get the money and bring it back. The waiter permitted us to do so. We rushed home, got the money, and we quickly returned back to the restaurant. And we went in to pay the bill, and we were so surprised when the waiter said, your bill has already been paid. And we were so shocked. And we stood there amazed with our mouths hanging open and asking him, who paid the bill? He said to the bishop, a gentleman at another table observed you searching for your wallet. And after you rushed out, he came and said, I would like to pay that couple's bill. They don't know me, but I know them. From that day, many years ago, to this day, we have no idea who that gentleman was. But I prayed and asked God to reward him in a mighty way for that act of kindness. A kindness you give is never lost. It keeps going from person to person to person until it returns back to you. You can lift others up with your love and kindness. If you lovingly remember others, they will never forget you, because your name will be written in kindness, love, and mercy on their hearts. And Proverbs 21:21, whoever pursues righteousness and kindness will find life, righteousness, and honor. Each one of us could be a miracle worker for someone we know. It doesn't always have to be helping someone by giving them money, but just by uplifting them, encouraging them. Someone, and this would mean so much to someone, by your concern, you can give them a new self. Now just remember that kind words are like honey, enjoyable and healthy. Now, I stepped on an elevator a few days ago. There was one man standing there. And I stepped on. I said, good morning, sir. And he looked at me very mean, and he said, it's not morning, it's afternoon. I said, whoa. Because I know that whether it is morning, noon, or night, whatever it is a blessing to be alive. And as Sister White did, said we all have a praise break. I could have had a praise break in that elevator with that one grumpy man. And I could have shouted right there in that elevator. Ooh. Because it is good to be alive. Whenever you wake up, it is a blessing. It is a miracle. It is a miracle. And it's better when you are above ground, it's a blessing, than when you are underground. Woo! It's another elevator story. A few years ago, Bishop, I, a few friends attended the National Democratic Convention. As he was in another area, I decided to leave the area where I was and join him where he was. I waited for the elevator to come. As the door opened, I stepped on. A gentleman put his hand up and said, ma'am, this elevator is occupied. You cannot get on. Another one will be coming soon. I stepped back off and to wait for the next one. As I did, a voice from the back of the elevator said, "Let her on. Let her on. There is enough room for her. Let her on." Smilingly, I stepped on, and doing so, because of my gratitude and greatness for this kindness, I turned around to thank the kind gentleman that said those words. When I did, my eyes opened wide with surprise. I was flabbergasted, and I said, oh my God, President Jimmy Carter." Thank you so much for allowing me to ride on this elevator. I got off on my floor excited. I could not wait until I saw Bishop Blake to tell him what had just happened. And the rest of the day, I was in a cloud of awe and amazement and full of admiration at the level and kindness of this remarkable man. I realized that I had been in the presence of greatness and had received kindness from someone who had never seen me before. I experienced that genuine humility and kindness coming from him that I will never, ever forget. I felt uplifted and blessed by that encounter. It further instilled in me that you should never get too big because of your title, because of your position, because of your economic status, or what you have accomplished and achieved. Your ego should never make you feel that you are too important to speak, to be nice, to be kind, and to be considerate to others. And you can also encourage and lift others up with your opportunities to share love and kindness. Not only will I remember President Jimmy Carter as the 39th President of the United States, but because of that little act of kindness, I will always remember him with admiration and esteem. And his name will always be special to me. So be with each of you. If you lovingly remember to use your opportunities to be nice and show kindness to others, they will never, ever forget you. Recently, I read a little story about a young lady who lived in a very small, simple, modest house on the top of a hill. Now, one day she looked over her fence and she saw in the distance what seemed to be a very beautiful and gorgeous home. And she felt that that particular house was her perfect dream house. The way that the sun shone on this house from a distance made the windows look like gold and crystal. The paint job was superb, and the shrubbery was lush and green. Everything she saw seemed to be just breathtaking. She observed this house frequently and wished that she lived in it rather than her own home. Now, one day, she decided to walk across the valley to see this beautiful dream house. And when she arrived there, she walked up the long, winding pathway to the front of the house. She was excited. She was overjoyed to see this gorgeous home that she had so long wanted to see up close. The house that she loved more than her own. With each step, the anticipation, the expectation, and the excitement grew more intense. Now, when she came to the front of her expected dream house, to her amazement, to her disappointment, and to her despair, she found it to be rather plain, run down, dilapidated, and in much need of a remodeling job. And it was a bad and neglected case. The windows were dirty, a loose shutter banged against the side of the house when the wind blew. Termites had eaten away at some of the wood, and the overgrown weeds made this yard look just like a jungle. She was hurt. She was disappointed. She looked back across the valley to her own house, and she could not believe what she saw. To her amazement, it looked very well kept. The way that the sun shone on the windows made them sparkle and gleam like gold and crystal. The paint job reflected a beautiful color. The reflection and glow of her entire house was remarkable. She looked back to what she thought was her dream house in its shabby condition and realized then that things at a distance give the illusion of perfection. Things at a distance give the illusion of perfection. As she started her walk back home, she realized that she was blessed with a nice house. And she thought about all of the good things that awaited her there. Need I say more, ladies? Need I say more? In life, we have to be so careful that we don't focus on what we don't have, that we can be thankful for what we do have. Now, when the young lady got to her so-called dream house and saw how bad it really was, she automatically felt gratitude for her own house. Now, this mental shift can make all the difference in the world. The very same house that she lived in, that she thought was terrible, was a negative situation in her mind, made an immediate positive transformation when it was viewed with a heart filled with gratitude of what she did have. Being thankful for what you already have has tremendous uplifting powers, ladies. It helps you to get over being sad, unhappy, and feeling sorry for yourself, and shifts your mind from the negative to the positive. Now, when you feel bad, pitiful, depressed, and down in the dumps, those feelings will magnify and expand, and you will become more and more and more unhappy and discontented and more depressed. But on the other hand, being grateful brings contentment. If we are thankful for what we do have, like our life, somewhat good health, a place to live, food, friends, family who care about us, and many other blessings that we take for granted. Being thankful not only heals the body, but it also regenerates, it revitalizes, and it refreshes you. It opens you up for additional blessings that God will bestow upon you. I sent my dad a DVD of my message on last year, Lessons Taught by My Mother. And I said, Dad, call me after seeing it and tell me what you think. And a couple hours later, I get this telephone call, and he said, Lady Mae. That's what he calls me. The message is absolutely wonderful about Mother, but didn't I teach you anything at all? He said, didn't you learn something from me? I said, of course I did, Dad, but this message was about Mother. It was a tribute to her. You taught me many good things. He said, all right then, because you have a daddy too. And I taught you some things. I said, oh, Dad, you know, I can never forget the many things that you taught me, the things that helped shape my life also. You taught me independence, how to do things myself without depending and waiting for others to do them for me. And by you once being a contractor, Dad, you taught me how to use a hammer and nails. You taught me how to measure and how to calculate. And if an item of furniture is in this corner and I wanted it moved to that corner, you taught me how to stabilize my back, bend my knees, maneuver it, and move it without lifting it and without breaking a sweat. Now, Dad's birthday was a couple months ago, and he was 94 years old. And he called me and he said, Lady Mae, guess what? My license expired on my birthday. Danny, his caregiver, took me down and I took the test and I passed. And I got my license for another 4 years. I said, what? And he said, I can drive until I am 98 years old. I said, oh, God, Jesus. And then he said, tell Bishop Blake that I can help Larry drive for him sometimes now, too. So I talked to my brother Welton. I said, Welton, do you mean they gave Dad a license for another 4 years? He said, yeah, but I think the person that did that was drunk that day. Well, to be alive is wonderful, and each day we are alive is a blessing. You know, I read something that was so exciting that I would like to share it with you. You have probably already read it for yourself, but anyway, the story goes. A man was walking along the beach when he came up on a bag filled with clay balls that had been washed ashore. Clay balls are fine-grained, heavy, sticky particles of earth that have been formed into a ball. They didn't look like very much, but they fascinated the man. So he scooped up the bag and he quickly determined that these clay balls were worthless as he walked along the beach. And as he walked along, he picked up the balls and he juggled them. And then he threw them one at a time into the ocean as far as they could go. He pulled out a few more of the balls and made a game of juggling and scattering them as he walked along the shore. He thought very little about these little clay balls. They were too ugly to be important or valuable. Then, at one point, he dropped one, and it cracked open on the ground. As it hit the ground, a beautiful and expensive precious stone tumbled out of the clay and landed in the sand by his feet. The man was shocked and excited at the hidden treasure that he had just discovered inside of this little ugly clay ball. So he began to break open a few remaining ones that he had left. Each little ugly clay ball contained a gemstone, larger and more beautiful than the previous one. He held a small fortune in the palm of his hand. He found thousands of dollars worth of jewels in the 20 or so clay balls that he had left. But then he realized that he had wasted, misused, and thrown away more than what he had left. 50 or 60 he had carelessly tossed into the ocean and scattered here and there. Instead of thousands of dollars in treasure, he could have taken home tens of thousands, but he just carelessly threw it away. Now, I would like to share with each of you, things of great value are sometimes hidden inside of things that appear worthless, insignificant, and useless. Because of the touch of the Master's hand, God has put a treasure or many treasures inside of each of us. Many talents and extraordinary gifts may be lying undeveloped and inactive inside of you. An aptitude for musical instruments, singing, leadership qualities, speaking, organizing, artistic creating, writing, working with children, working with the elderly. So many treasures or gifts could be within each of us. The treasures within us might just be lying there or thrown away until the right motivation or circumstances arises to help us break free from our shells and share our gifts and light with others. And then, very importantly, like the clay balls, we may look at some people and just see an outer empty shell, an external clay vessel, homeless, poor, destitute, down and out, and in our opinion, they don't look like very much. And so they don't look like very much from the outside. We discount the person and not put value on them. We see them as less important than someone more beautiful, wealthy, or well-known. However, there are persons who make a great difference in our lives who are not rich, who are not famous, or who have stellar credentials, but who have wonderful values, standards, ethics, and principles. Beautiful Christian character traits within a person are gems that will stand the test of time and will never be forgotten. We need to treat each other like treasures. Value them. Value your friends. And most of all, value your family and your loved ones. We should not treat others royally and treat our spouse, our children, and other loved ones like enemies. Contact that child that you are at odds with because you are upset with him or her for some reason. Make amends with that parent who you feel did not treat you right. Love them. How can we love God whom we have never seen and yet not love and care for others or our brothers and sisters that we see every day? We should not look at outward appearances. Each person we encounter is an opportunity to both bless you and to receive a blessing. Each person has valuable resources within them, but in some cases, this is hidden because there is an outer shell of drugs, alcohol, immorality, poverty, sickness, pain, fear, being incarcerated. All that matters is that they have an invaluable soul worthy of all the love that we can share. Every person that you encounter is a priceless soul. If you don't see it that way, and have not treated them with love and respect, you have been throwing clay balls in the ocean, which contains valuable treasures, and missing opportunities to bless and also to receive a blessing. He has put a treasure in each of us. Romans 6:7, but we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellency of the power may be of God and not of us. As we grow older, let us not come to the end of our lives and discover that we have thrown away a fortune in family relationships. Big falling out with your son, disagreement with your daughter, long-time angers with a parent, hostility towards your husband, friendships drifting apart because the gems were hidden in outer shells of mud, dirt, and clay. And then we should all seek that which should be most valuable thing to us in life, and that is seeking the treasures of heaven. Jesus shares with us in Matthew 6:33, but seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all of these things shall be added unto you. Just remember, my sisters, my mothers, you are a treasure, and God bless each of you, and I love you dearly.
Thank you for watching the Jonathan Desbarney Gospel Channel. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and get your praise on.
Come on, sing it.